We have reporters in El Paso at the border looking at what's going on there. And we have a red link story up at Infowars.com. Border Patrol says cartels are using de facto amnesty to smuggle, quote, whatever they want, unquote, into the United States. And of course, they're saying they don't know who or what is coming in. They said also that they are using the massive influx of immigrants that's being driven by the drug cartels to distract them. This is an amazing interview. We're going to play some of that interview for you, and we're also going to be going in the next segment live to El Paso to talk to Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, and there's some more information coming out of there. There's an article up on the Drudge Report about the Border Patrol agents are testing positive now for diseases that are being carried by immigrants, and those are things like TB, scabies, chickenpox. Well, in this interview with the Border Patrol agents that are in the area, we have some new revelations about disease and its transmission coming across the border and the CDC's reaction to it, which is really going to amaze you. But let's play a little bit of that report that's up now at Infowars.com. This is an interview with the Vice President of the Border Patrol Union in El Paso.
My name is Stu Harris. I'm First Vice President with Local 1929 of the National Border Patrol Council. Right now, the biggest concern, obviously, is this Central American invasion that's happening right now, and not just the humanitarian aspect of it, because what we know is that the cartels control the smuggling routes, and it's the cartels that are pushing these people from Central America across the river instead of taking them to a port of entry where, if they turn themselves in at a port of entry, the end result is going to be the same. So it's the cartels pushing these groups across the river to tie up our agents, and meanwhile our agents are tied up processing, feeding these people, changing diapers, and the drug cartels are running whoever they want across the border and other places. And who or what is coming in, we don't know, and we won't know until something bad happens. And that right now is the biggest concern that we have, and this has to be addressed. We want to make sure they're not carrying any infectious diseases or contagious diseases, so our agents aren't put in harm's way unnecessarily. Once that's done, obviously, medical evaluation if they need it. If they're asking for any kind of medical assistance, we'll provide what we can there. And then they're taken to a processing center where they either wait to be processed or they're sent to El Paso or Tucson, and they're run through the system, fingerprints, the whole 9 yards. They're issued a packet. They're given a notice to appear before a judge, and they're released. A lot of what we're hearing in the media and other places is that, the conditions in Central America, they're just horrible conditions. There's violence, there's gang violence, and that's true. And that's a terrible way to have to live. But that's been going on for more than 10 years, okay? So for this invasion to start suddenly happening, something else had to change. And what changed was the fact that we were engaging in this catch and release program. And word spreads fast.
I think that's a key thing. We're going to have the rest of that report, and we're going to be talking to Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, who is at the border there in El Paso. He's the one who did the interview. He and Rob Dew are out there. We're going to talk to him about some additional revelations that they've learned about disease, about the CDC and their reaction to this immigration surge. But that point that he made right there, he said there's been violence and hardship and economic conditions for decades down there. What changed this suddenly? Well, of course, it's the catch and release program. It's the change in the policy from the Obama administration. This is something that is, as many Border Patrol agents have said, as they've seen their jobs change from law enforcement and border enforcement to essentially helping the people who come across, facilitating them to come 1,500 miles into the country, as Adon Salazar's article on InfoWars points out. We're going to be right back from the border in El Paso with Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs. Stay with us. I'm joined this segment by Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, who's on the border at El Paso. Now, we have an article that's linked up on Infowars.com where the Border Patrol says cartels are using de facto amnesty to smuggle, quote, whatever they want, unquote, into the United States. And this is an amazing interview. It's an exclusive interview that's up on Infowars.com. And we have Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs. Joe Biggs, you've got some updates to this as well. But first, I want to ask you about the morale of the Border Patrol agents. We've seen a lot of articles from them saying that morale, they actually tweeted out that morale was low, that they've changed from law enforcement. They don't even talk about that anymore. Now they're concerned about preparing meals, changing diapers, transporting people into the interior of the United States, essentially just ignoring the laws that are on the books. How's their morale?
Right now, from what Stu Harris told us yesterday, the guy that's in the interview, he said it is the lowest. I mean, it is probably one of the worst jobs to have right now in the federal government. I mean, these guys are essentially being pulled off their duties to protect our borders and go out now and babysit these kids. They're doing paperwork and leaving these wide gaps open on our borders. I mean, they're out looking for jobs currently right now to go somewhere else because they don't want to deal with this anymore.
Hang on right there. I want to go back and play part of that interview where he talks about that. Let's let him tell the audience exactly how he feels. Go back. Let's play that clip.
You know, a lot of what we're hearing in the media and other places is that, you know, the conditions in Central America, they're just horrible conditions. There's violence, there's gang violence, and that's true. And you know, that's a terrible way to have to live. But that's been going on for more than 10 years, okay? So for this invasion to start suddenly happening, something else had to change. And what changed was the fact that we were engaging in this catch and release program. And word spreads fast. And our agents are interviewing these people when they're being processed. And one of the things they ask them, so why come now? And the answer is 90% of the time, because you're going to give me a permiso or a permit. They know they're going to be processed and released, and they're free to go wherever they want to go in the United States, and the likelihood of them ever showing up as, you know, for their court date, slim to none. And, you know, even if they did show up for their court date, what we're going to start seeing is what we call the anchor babies, okay? Because these court dates are being set, from what I understand, so far down the road. These people are going to come here, they're going to settle in, some of them are going to have children. Those children are now United States citizens. How is the judge going to deport these people if they have a United States citizen as a child? He's not, even if they did show up. So that's a problem. I don't have an exact number on it. If I had to guess, I would say probably about 90% of these people, once they're here, and they're not going to go before an immigration judge knowing that they could be facing deportation. We're absolutely against amnesty. You know, amnesty has been touted as, you know, we need to bring these people out of the shadows, and, well, that's all well and good, but we shouldn't be letting them go into the shadows in the first place like we're doing right now. So amnesty is not the answer. Well, it is a huge burden, and I'm sure you know DHS has been rated one of the worst places to work in the federal government, and that's because of the morale issue. Now, you pile a situation like this on top, you know, our agents are looking for jobs elsewhere. You know, some are ready to leave and go back to their hometown, work for their local police department. So it's a huge burden. Morale is the worst that it's ever been by far. And again, this situation has to be addressed. I know of at least one from our sector that transferred to another job. And I know more of our agents are looking. Right now, in places other than the Rio Grande Valley sector, our agents are being pulled off the line in less than their 10-hour shifts because of the budget concerns. And so it's exposing some areas. But we're starting to see what's happening in the Rio Grande Valley sector. We're starting to see that here. We've had upwards of 70 people from Central America just turn themselves into the agents here. So this is a southwest border problem, and it's also a problem for the United States because these people are going throughout the United States. It's hard to say. I mean,
so you said it's averaging about 100, 150 a day almost?
Yeah, about 100, 150 a day. That's about the best number I could put on it. You know, if they do the right thing and start detaining these people and not catch and release like they are now, the problem as far as the Central American invasion that's going on right now will stop. As we've seen it in the past. We've seen it, I think it was in 2004, we had a lot of people from Brazil that were coming in. Not at this magnitude, but that's what was happening here. And when we started detaining those people, it stopped. As far as how many people are getting biased that we don't know about, I just don't know how you can put a number on something that you don't see or something that you can't physically count.
Okay, that's Stu Harris. He's a vice president of a local Border Patrol union there in El Paso, interviewed by Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs. Joe, what is their concern about the people that are coming across?
Well, the big thing is the use of these children, this humanitarian crisis, beard, to cover up what's really going on. The drug cartels are using these kids, funneling them in, all the attention's on them. Meanwhile, these big gaps are left open in these borders, and, you know, Chinese, Pakistani, different people are now able to travel in these gapped walls and smuggle drugs and terrorists. And that's a huge issue right now, he said.
Yeah, that's one of the things. In the headline, he says, we don't know who's coming in. We don't know what's coming in. There's, as you pointed out, they're using the idea that this is all exclusively children as a beard, as a distraction, so that they can bring in people associated with the drug cartel or also people who might be involved in terrorism or other nationalities, not necessarily even people from Central or South America, but also people who might be from the Middle East, might be from China, might be from India. We've heard reports of that happening at the border as well, haven't we?
Yes. I mean, another one of the things that he brought up yesterday as well is what kind of parents are putting their kids on these trains that the drug cartel's running and just shipping them off for the drug cartel, you know, with God knows where, if they're going to show up or not.
Yes. Now, there was an article that was up on Drudge about some of the Border Patrol agents are now testing positive for some of the diseases that are coming through. Tell us what he said about the CDC's attitude towards this, Center for Disease Control.
Yeah, I asked him about some of the diseases I heard. I asked him, I was like, well, you know, what is the possibility of infectious disease and passing over in our borders? And he said, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. He said, I personally called CDC because of that problem, and they said that it's not their concern. It's not their issue. So right now, they don't even have any plans to come down here and look into this. Meanwhile, yesterday, he sent me a text saying that the last group that came through yesterday, it was about 150 people, had scabies, chicken pox, and lice, and these people are being caught and then released out into our country.
Wow. So the CDC essentially says it's not their job. They're not concerned about that.
Yeah, they're not concerned about it, one bit whatsoever. Meanwhile, our border's wide open, and this stuff's just coming right into our country.
Wow. Wow. Is that interview going to go up as another article about the CDC's attitude?
Yes, roger that.
Man.
I mean, another thing was, you know, you could tell when you watch the video, he seemed very nervous. You know, a lot of these guys are being told not to talk. And we know that the Border Patrol in general, they were told not to speak to media at all. I mean, they, you know, threatened to lose their jobs and things like that. So, I mean, that's just another one of those.
I've been told, hang on, Joe, I've been told by Nico here that he's got that clip queued. Let's hear what they had to say about the CDC.
All right, today we spoke to Stuart Harris. He's the vice president of the Border Patrol Union Association here in El Paso, Texas.
We got reports today, I was actually reading that there was a swine flu outbreak at the Lackland Air Force Base up there, and I've been there recently and, you know, spoke with DHS and some people up there.
Anybody that comes into this country could be bringing a disease. But the bigger concern here with that particular issue is the fact that you may have 1,000 people housed in the same area, and all it takes is one or two with an infectious disease, and you've got a problem on your hands.
Now, are these actual licensed people who, you know, check for diseases, or are these just Border Patrol agents just trying to do what they can based off what, you know, bit of equipment they have, or is there like some CDC personnel or something like that?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned CDC. I actually called the CDC for, you know, to see if this would be something that they were interested in, and I was informed that since they're not a regulatory body, they had no interest in this issue. But yeah, but our Border Patrol agents, we have, you know, a good number of agents that are trained as emergency medical technicians, and when the people from RGV come here to El Paso, that's part of the process here is they go through that medical screening with the EMTs, and then they're sent out to other stations in the sector.
We definitely need to get a hold of CDC. That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, the borders are wide open, all these people are coming in, you think they would want to check that out?
That's why I called them. I thought they might be interested in it, but...
One of the questions I asked him earlier was, are any of these kids or immigrants coming in from Central America carrying diseases? And he said yes. And I got a text maybe about an hour ago, And he said that out of the group that came in today, they had chickenpox, scabies, and lice. And the people who are scanning these guys for diseases are just regular Border Patrol with some EMT training. They are not CDC personnel. Stuart Harris said that he tried to contact the CDC and they refused to come down here. They said it's a situation that they feel like is not worth looking into.
Wow, that's amazing. So it appears, Joe, that the fix seems to be in. The CDC is going to play along like many others in the bureaucracy and the mainstream media. They see no evil. They hear no evil. They're just going to essentially ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, that it's so unbelievable that they would not want to come and check this out.
Well, that's amazing. We certainly appreciate the Border Patrol agents who are speaking up about what's going on there. I wanted to ask you, Staff Sergeant, what about their fear of recrimination?
Yeah, he said that's one of the things. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, he said that's one of the things that a lot of the agents are worried about. They're being told not to talk. So it's already being frustrated with your job and not being able to do what you're paid to do. And then on top of that, being told if you talk to media whatsoever that you could lose your job, that's going through a lot of their minds. I mean, they see us come up with a camera, they immediately just turn around and want to get out of there.
That, to me, is really telling. One of the things that he said in this interview was that, of course, these economic conditions and the violence that's been going on in Central and South America with the drug wars there, he says that's been going on for more than 10 years. So why did this suddenly change? Well, it changed in response to the Obama administration's catch and release program. So they're very concerned about that, but they don't want anybody to talk about that. They want to gag that from anyone. The public is not supposed to know what's going on. And, of course, the CDC, as he pointed out to you in the last segment we were just talking about, the CDC doesn't want to know about diseases that are coming across. I mean, it's kind of like, the thing with the three monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. They don't want to know or talk about or completely ignore this.
Yeah, he said that the simplest way to end this entire problem would be in that catch and release program. I mean, it's as simple as that. But it's not going to happen because we need our dreamers to come across the border and, get the votes in.
That's just amazing. And, of course, when he talked about the CDC not being concerned about tuberculosis, about scabies, about chickenpox coming across the border, I mean, look at the propaganda that we get all the time about flu vaccines, and yet they're not concerned about any of this stuff. We've got a virus detected in Mexico. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's chikungunya or something. It's out of Mexico. It's CHIKUNGUNYA. And this is a virus that spreads through mosquito bites, gives you fever, headache, nausea, vomiting, rash, muscle or joint pain, incapacitating joint pain, very severe pain. This is something that is in Mexico now. Anybody that's either coming from Mexico or passing through Mexico, coming from South America, as many of these people are, they could possibly be bringing that in as well. These are not trained medical staff that they have there. When they ask for the CDC to help them, the CDC says that's not our job.
Yeah, when he said that they were scanning people for these viruses, I was sitting there thinking, well, then CDC has to be down here. It's like, no, these are just Border Patrol agents who have gone through very, basic EMT training, EMTB training. So, I mean, that's mind-blowing. I went to EMT school, and I definitely would not know how to deal with diseases, on that level.
So what are they saying in their estimation? What did he say was the number that they were estimating that they're seeing coming through, and how many do they think are coming through that they're not seeing?
150 per day that they know of in that ballpark. And then he said it'd probably be anywhere from about another 150 to 200 that they don't know about because there's spots that are being left. And we put up a video the other day. Actually, we were out filming some B-roll looking into Juarez over I-10 at the Rio Grande, and the Border Patrol vehicle pulls up, opens the gate, and drives off. And we sat for a few hours. No one comes back. No one locks that gate. That was a main gate left open right on I-10 into the city of El Paso and a slum part of Juarez, Mexico.
Well, that actually, Joe, that's kind of a metaphor, isn't it, for what's going on all the way across the border. They've just put it wide open. They're not going to allow you, however, to come into this country through an airport without going through customs, without going through multiple screenings by Homeland Security, without having your passport vetted. But the border, they just leave wide open. Amazing how the hypocrisy of what's going on at the border and contrasting that with the way they treat us here in this country. Thank you so much, Joe Biggs, reporting live from El Paso. Check out that article on Infowars.com. The interview, cartels using de facto amnesty to smuggle whatever they want into the United States. We also have another article that's up on Infowars. We have multiple teams of reporters at the border. This is an article that's coming and an interview that's coming from John Bound, put up by John Bound and Kit Daniels. Illegals are bankrupting small towns and border states. Small towns and counties and states bordering Mexico are drowning in debt due to the swarm of illegals who are stealing and destroying property, requiring expensive medical care, needing proper burial, all of which the federal government has largely refused to pay for. This is an interview that John Bound has with a judge down there, Judge Raul Ramirez. And one of the things that's very interesting in this report, the judge tells John Bound that they've had so many people coming across the border with rattlesnake bites that they're having to pay for the very expensive anti-venom shots. And, of course, they can only get that out of a large city, out of Corpus Christi. It's bankrupting them to get this expensive antivenom. And, of course, it has to be transported on an emergency basis, either to transport the patients or transport the venom. So that's yet another stress on these cities. And, of course, they're getting absolutely no help from the federal government that is opening the borders. As Joe Biggs told us earlier, he and Rob Dew saw them leave a gate open. That's a metaphor for everything that the federal government is doing down there at the border. And yet, are they standing down at the airports? No. They're still x-raying people. They're still molesting children. They're still having us take off our shoes and our belts. And this is absolutely absurd. And this is the same organization, Homeland Security, that is running both of these operations. Now, if you want to stay up to date on the reports coming from our multiple teams at the border, check out Prison Planet TV. A subscription will help to fund our research, our operations down there at the border. You can share that subscription with other people. And, of course, you can get the latest news tonight. Darren McBreen is going to be your host there. That's at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, you can help us by buying our products. We have a Fluoride Shield and a special on that, 25% off, exclusive blend of key herbs and ingredients, specifically infused with a formula to help support the elimination of toxic forms of fluoride and other things like mercury, chlorine, and bromine. That's available at InfoWarsLife.com. And we have these great new belt buckles that Alex got. It's a limited run of 500 belt buckles, the Made in 1776 series, and you can see those on the desk. There's a picture of it if you're looking at it. These belt buckles have essentially the same design that you see on that T-shirt. It's a great design. They put that in the center of the buckle with Moulin Lave on both sides. So if you haven't seen that, go to InfoWars store and check that out. It's a limited edition. Only 500 of these are being done per color, and there's just a couple of colors that are up there. I think it's 3 colors that we've got there. Is another way to support our operation. We'll be back on Sunday, and we'll have the live show from 4 to 6. Again, check out this report from John Bound about how these towns, these small towns, are being bankrupted, and, of course, the crime that is happening there. These are areas where, essentially, these are ranchers who've been living there, sparsely populated areas, so when they have a massive amount of people coming across the border, and as the Border Patrol agents have said, many of those coming across are part of drug cartels. They're using the children as shields so they can get their cartel gang members across. We don't know, as far as we're looking to see if we can find people of other nationalities coming through that perhaps are from the Middle East. Of course, Al-Qaeda is in your pants at the airport, according to Homeland Security.
Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield True Nascent Iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are, incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at InfoWarsLife.com.